The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Your chance to have your say between now and 1. Text 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. WhatsApp 166 177. Call 66 1368. Well, the Manxman went earlier this morning. The 8:45 boat sailed at 8 o'clock, leaving at Heysham at 2:15 this afternoon, but it's now going to leave at 1:30. So the boat's going to be trying to skip through the weather this afternoon. If you got somebody who's on there, we wish them all the very best. So anything to chat about? Anything you want? Lots of comment left over from last week that I haven't haven't read out on air. So we'll get through some of that today. And certainly messages coming in left, right and centre. Laxey, this is Big John. I'm very concerned with our present administration in Tynwald. I do hope Mrs. Farragher, Mr. Hooper haven't got a hidden agenda by removing the vote for the bishop. And it's not the case that they want to remove religious education from our schools. Seems to me nothing is off limits when it comes to Joni Farragher and Mr. Hooper. As to why this one I find totally wrong. I only hope my suspicions aren't true. So, the talk of taking the bishop's vote away from him, or perhaps taking the bishop completely out of Tynwald. Any thoughts on this matter? It's fair to say we've become a far more secular society than we ever were. The attendances for church are on a downward trajectory. There are more churches than there used to be, for one thing. So, do you have any thoughts on this? Or don't you care? Perhaps you don't care, but like the idea of the bishop just being there anyway, because you think it's nice to see a priest inside the legislature. Any thoughts? It could downgrade the whole Soda and Man region, because this comes from York. And if we don't have a bishop within Tynwald, it was hinted last time by Peter Eagles that they could basically downgrade our bishop. And it wouldn't be as big a post as hitherto it had been. But anyway, any thoughts on this? Text, email, call and WhatsApp. Do you think, bearing in mind that Joni Farragher and Laurie Hooper are carrying out what they said they wanted to do. Mr. Hooper says this was carried through in Keys last year anyway, so this is just a continuation of what had happened before. But anyway, thoughts on this? Text, email, call and WhatsApp. The Graham says, these so-called experts that advise the Isle of Man government, they should be called salesmen because they all have an agenda. Well, I've yet to meet a salesman that doesn't have an agenda, so we get that, but quite what do you mean? Which bit of this, which advice don't you think the government should be taking? Do you think the government should be taking its own advice, should be making policy up? Is it a good idea that we get advice from outside? It just seems now, I think the airport board has taken on 3 non-execs to advise them on what's going to happen at the airport. But anyway, thoughts on this? Why don't they put solar panels on Derby Airfield, says Pete. Is this in a response to the Andreas Airfield, the fact that presumably now Andreas Gliding Club, if this goes through, and yet I'm not saying it will or won't, but the proposal is to cover Andreas Airfield in renewable energy sources, anaerobic digestion, also solar power and also wind turbines on Andreas Airfield. So presumably, I don't know whether they'll be able to have that equestrian stuff going on there, but certainly you would have thought the gliders won't be able to tug in and out of Andreas Airfield. And if you're of the gliding fraternity, I wonder how you feel that is. Is it big? Were the Koreans told that the Manxman is for the Irish Sea, not the Mediterranean, says John. I'm guessing they were. I'm guessing that the Koreans, experienced shipbuilders that they are, took a look at the map of the world. A revolutionary suggestion, says Texter 246, the government using reserves to fund the deficit, reduce expenditure. The low-hanging fruit is the net zero programme, says 246. Anonymous, that is, by the way, 246. Anonymous, are you genuinely suggesting they should ditch something that absolutely everybody signed up to in their manifestos? I mean, everybody did. They go back and look at all their manifestos, and it was all there. If you want to leave a message, by the way, it's easy as pie. You call 682-631. Here's somebody that did.
Hello, my name is Richie. I want to voice my own slant on the Russian school Windfarm meeting, different from that given by a caller to your show last Friday. Most people there were concerned specifically about the Eri Stane location, its site access, and the size and type of the turbines ordered. It turns out that this has not been decided and have not been ordered. Nothing's been signed, nothing's been paid. So good. We were there to listen and learn facts like this. But there was a noisy, quite large minority who will never accept wind farms anywhere, who were there to peddle their pet agendas like climate change denial or such things as enhanced closed-looped geothermal stations, which are not commercially established in the UK, and they're yet not affordably upscalable enough to compete with wind farms in high-level electricity production such as we want. It was that minority who did virtually all the speaking and the shouting, plus people whom I know who do live near Eri Stane who were not satisfied with the answers they were getting, and they said so quite eloquently for the most part. One young lady who accepted that the objectors had valid points to make, but that we had to do something now, was screeched and hollered at to declare an interest that she was the daughter of a member of Comin. She sat down, not embarrassed, as was reported, but looking, I thought, a little scared. And I was ashamed at her treatment. It's not as if what she'd said was unreasonable, nor contentious. Many agreed with her. We do have to do something now, but just not rush it. Most of the people at the meeting were anti-carbon emissions, anti-fossil fuel, and also against us exporting our energy. They were pro-renewables, solar and wind, but they remained to be convinced that Eri Stane is the very place to develop a wind farm. Virtually everyone was also stridently of the view that the planning decision should not, at the end of the day, be in the hands of Comin, but should be settled totally independently, which does mean that the law must be changed. Now, finally, as for our Chief Minister, Alf Cannon, for whom I hold no grief, I don't know him, but when his negative statement of several years ago about wind farms was quoted back to him, he did not look embarrassed. He owned it with a brief smile and stood up to respond reasonably. And so what anyway? The world is changing. The climate has changed. Following the growing evidence that 99% of scientists have been right all along, people do change their minds, as we'd expect of any and every thinking, intelligent person. If only all of us used our brains like this, we wouldn't be in the mad rush now, when it's pretty well too late. Cheers. Thank you.
That's Richie, and you can leave a message on the answer phone. Some people don't have time to call in during the midday to 1 hour. Some people don't want to, but are happy to do it out of hours. 682-631. In the early 1990s, I lived at Croncavoddy, and there was a company that was going to put wind turbines up at the top of Little London. We had a meeting at the Sartfield restaurant, but I don't know what happened in the end. Does anybody know what happened in the end with that proposed wind farm at the top of Little London? Yes, there are 3 non-execs who've been appointed to help guide the development of Isle of Man Airport. Tynwald members have received that Isle of Man Airport report. It's called Function, Future and Form, and they need an incremental approach to exploring to how the airport may be operated, get this, at arm's length. The intention is to review its current position as a division of infrastructure and potentially to become a statutory board or a limited company. Now, they've taken 3 new advisors. Talking of advisors, who will provide independent advice and constructive challenge to the board and to the executive team. They are Christopher Holliday, Lorna Jack and John McGlynn. Christopher Holliday's from Leeds, worked in the aviation industry. Lorna Jack's from Stirling. She's currently chair of the Highlands and Islands Airport Limited, which I think Gary Cobb used to work for. It operates 11 Scottish airports. And John McGlynn is an entrepreneur, basically working across various sectors. He's worked and had a relationship with Glasgow Airport after creating a business there in the 1990s. So Christopher Holliday from Leeds, Lorna Jack from Stirling, and John McGlynn are they're non-execs on the board of the airport, moving towards. So I just wonder what you think. Which way do you think we're moving with this? Now, Department of Infrastructure obviously is responsible for the airport. Mr. Cobb came on a while back and was at pains to point out what he was and wasn't responsible for, which I thought he did very well, because it's often thought that, the boss of the airport controls everything, but he doesn't. In particular, he's not responsible for those appalling adverts that there are in the departures lounge or the arrivals lounge, where hitherto you could see people coming from the airport. Now you can't, because that space is sold to an advertiser. It wasn't before. Somebody somewhere decided that money, and I think that's Department of Infrastructure. Gary Cobb's not responsible for the car park. He's not responsible for the taxis. So will this new enhanced arm's length airport concern be responsible for all that? If you have a thought on what we should do with the airport, then by all means do get in touch. And here's Bonzo with us now. Hi, Bonzo.
Hello there. Yes, I was just listening, of course, to Richie's message. And another beacon of reason within all this. Yes, I've seen some of the video of the meeting, and I must admit the behaviour towards the young lady, who I believe is the daughter of an MLC, it was just appalling. And the person behind the screeching and appallingness, I believe, was an unsuccessful MLC candidate called Kiri Jenkins, who I think leads the Erie Stain and etc. Opposition group to the Windfarms. So her screaming that, she should have declared an interest because she's an MLC's daughter. You see other people there declaring their interests, such as Kiri Jenkins, a thwarted MLC candidate, or indeed Jane Glover, wife of an MHK who had just put a motion before Tynwald to stop the wind farm. So a fair amount of hypocrisy there, but also not just the hypocrisy, but the utter misinformation as well. I saw the presentations that were there; they were very well put. But of course, I think either they just went in one ear out of the other for many of those people who just had gone there to shout and scream and just keep pushing their "we don't want wind farms, we're climate deniers," etc. etc. The Julians of this world and Julians, and just weren't prepared to listen to any reason whatsoever.
I mean, do you think we can get through this? Us as a nation, can we get through it? Because this is obviously a divisive topic and do you think we can get through this and be nice to each other, not be rude, be polite, keep a civil tongue in our head? Do you think it's possible to do that? Because some people are going to be terribly disappointed either way.
Well, No, I think with some people that's just not going to happen. The kind of people who come to the island because it's like Britain used to be 30 years ago, and just want everything their way and no change at all. These are, of course, the same people who then go on about, oh, well, the Victorians were able to do things. Oh, they just pushed ahead. Yes, because they pushed ahead. They didn't listen to any objections about oh dear, you're going to be spoiling the Douglas Bay, putting up all those vulgar hotels, for people from the northwest to come tramp around here. They just said, no, progress. Victorians were all about progress, and if you're not, and if you want to stand in the way of progress, be prepared to get mown down by it. And that's how these things got done. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had a mountain railway going up Snae Fell. Again, people would, you can't have that there, that despoils this. You can't have Laxey Wheel there, that despoils everything. Anything about, there's a sort of infamous joke about the Manx, or well, indeed, the proportion of the Manx population, in that there's two things that they don't like: the way things are and any change to the way things are. And those people very much represent that that vested interest point of view. And until we start sweeping away some of this vested interestness and willful, ignorant obstructionism, then nothing is going to progress on the Isle of Man, and we are just going to atrophy.
So the thing is that, let's just say, the people who are against wind farms, okay, whether it's for aesthetic reasons, whether or not they choose to think that it won't add to the exchequer on the Isle of Man, surely one way that people who are proposing wind farms, they could appeal to people's pockets and wallets and purses and say it's going to cut the cost of electricity. But I've not heard anybody making that what would be a killer argument, Bonzo.
Well, that argument was, I think, placed in the meeting. But yes, I would agree that one of the issues that we have with climate action is that it sometimes tends to be advocated from a moral position. We must do this because it is, for the greater good, for the greater good of the world. And yes, of course, it is for the greater good. But it's also for our good as well. And yes, as they say in advertising, emphasize the benefit of what it is you're trying to sell. And yes, that should be the line that's taken. I remember, of course, putting this on when I was speaking on Friday. In that it is, or was it on Thursday? That the wind farm will firstly stabilise electricity prices, won't go up any higher. And then, as it pays back and, of course, saves on gas that's then being used in all those, can then actually get prices going down again.
Okay.
But mostly to have prices at a predictable level so that people can plan.
Okay, Bonzo, if a wind turbine were to be proposed in a close proximity to where you live, how would you feel?
No biggie. They're not that far away from where I live anyway.
Okay, that's all right. It's just questions that have been put to, while you've been talking. Questions have been sent in as to what you would feel. Would you fall into the NIMBY camp if one were put near you?
No. I know there are those people who will then go, oh, well, what if one was put just next to, what if you were living underneath one? Well, nobody does. It would only be within 500 metres of me. Or it would be more than 500 metres away from me. Okay. So, I don't see any problem with it.
All right. Thanks, Bonzo. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Cheers. Now it's 12:25. Scotland has small roads to transport wind turbines, and they seem to manage okay. Plenty of wind farms in Scotland, says WhatsApper 805. No papers today, of course, so if you're trying to read something, it's probably going to be yesterday's. Listening to Friday's programme on the radio player, there was a question repeated that had been asked before, says Phil. If the public is to get behind the Windfarm project, the government has to give some examples of places on the map where wind energy has proven successful, reliable, efficient and economic. Preferably, these examples will be small regions or countries where wind power is a proven technology and the main source of energy. Also, what energy source it replaces, size of population, energy demand, climate, type of economy. It would be a good help. Phil, very good points. And I think the whole point is to contextualise what it is we have, what situation we're in, and then what's going to happen in the future. I know predicting the future is often a risky business, but how we're going to get to where we want to be and what state where we're going to be in when we get there. Does that make sense? Cheap electricity, and this is something Laurie Hooper mentioned ages and ages ago. Laurie Hooper, leader of Liberal Mannin, is that if you told the public, Mr. Hooper said, that the cost of electricity was going to halve, suddenly everybody would want a wind turbine. Concerning the steam packet, says Paul, how come the staff get a car and family to the UK for £25? Is that true? I don't know. Is there a staff discount for the steam packet? Other travellers pay £400 plus. And the rest. I don't mind staff getting a discount, but I think £25 is madness. And they get food and free on board as well. Is that? I don't know, Paul. If you've got any information on that, that may be skeet at the moment. But what is the staff discount for steam packet employees for a car? That's always happened, and certainly cheap rail travel used to be thrown into that as well. A private business advised the government we needed 100,000 people and a large-scale immigration. So who benefits from a larger pool of workers? Well, Mr. Cannon's been very clear on this. To get more people into the working populations, that benefits national insurance and tax payments. So is that the way forward? Crowdfunding to help people with energy poverty, a food bank, homeless sofa surfers. This is what are Joni Farragher and Laurie Hooper individually doing to help those people needing energy, food and housing instead of wasting time navel-gazing that does nothing to help people. Andy's words regarding Joni Farragher and Laurie Hooper. Why would the bishop losing his vote make any difference to the job? He's not appointed or paid to be a politician. I suspect the problem is that the church is afraid of losing power over more people, says Sue. The bishop should stay, says Texter 068. This is yet another erosion of our culture and history. We're losing our culture rapidly. The Diocese of Soda and Mam is very old and we'll lose that as well before long. Why is there this agenda, says 068. And if you want to contribute, then by all means do get in touch. We need the bishop's vote to remain, says TJ on 476. Yes, we are more secular nowadays, but looking at modern society, it doesn't seem to be working too well at the moment. Although not perfect, Christianity does give a moral code in which we can come together. Also, at least having a bishop's vote gives Tynwald a code of practice that has worked for most Western societies for over 2,000 years. I feel our politicians should consider the Christian perspective. And Kevin with us now. Hi, Kevin.
Oh, hi, Andy. How are you?
Good, thanks. Yourself?
Good. Yeah, not so bad, not so bad. I don't call in very often, but I just wanted to have a chat with you about the airport.
Okay.
You were talking about it a little bit earlier. Yeah, my wife flew away this morning to Liverpool, and she was I think she was there for the 6 o'clock flight. I dropped her off, and she's in a wheelchair at the moment because she's had a hip operation. So she has to use the ambulift that's provided to gain access to the aircraft and then to disembark at the other end. Now, this should normally be a straightforward procedure, but recently it's become a very time-consuming operation. And by the time she disembarked and got out of the airport at Liverpool, it was about 9:45. And what happened at Manx, Ronaldsway, is that she was last to board the aircraft. by a long way, and she's left basically by herself. And this is because the number of ambulifts that should be available have been much reduced. So the flight is delayed for everybody because she has to board the aircraft at the very end, which makes it look as if she's been late for the flight. And because of that has to happen, all the luggage has to come off before the ambulift can be used. So the flight was late to depart the airport here. And then when it arrives at Liverpool, the other end, the same thing happens in reverse.
Is it getting worse, or was it ever like this?
This never used to happen because there are more ambulifts and there are more staff. So now, bearing in mind, yesterday was International Day for the Disabled. I don't know whether many people know that. But the number of ambulances has been reduced, and the number of staff that can operate that, I believe, has also been reduced. So as a result, the flights are being delayed. And also, it's quite a little bit, well, it's not very dignifying either, because people who aren't aware of the situation think that the disabled person is holding up the flight.
And you think that psychologically that says something about the attitude to people with disabilities?
I don't think really it's an attitude to disabilities. I think people are pretty good, actually. The level of customer service is quite good. I don't think it's an attitude issue. I think it's just basically a resources issue because, and as I say, the number of ambulances has been reduced, and I think there's a staff shortage too. And also there's probably logistics there that have suffered. But it's very disorganised. So the whole flight is delayed. And
it's the same at Liverpool as well, you say?
It seems to be the same the other side, yeah. It seems to be the same the other side. But you would think Ronaldsway, where they used to be very good, have really become a lot worse in their treatment of disabled people.
Well, I remember a few months ago, a gentleman wrote to me and said there was a situation where his wife had to be carried on board the plane because the ambulance wasn't working.
That's happened before, actually, where the ambulift has not been available at all, or it's not been working. And my wife has had a fireman's lift up to the aircraft. Now, that really is appalling. That really is appalling.
And that shouldn't be happening in 2023.
Exactly, yeah. No, I mean, this isn't a criticism of the staff because they're very good. I think everybody now is disability aware. There's disabled spaces out there. There's no problem at all. Everybody's very helpful. Even most passengers are also very understanding. But it's just really the lack of resources again. And it's very undignifying, really. And again, but the main thing is delaying the flights. And I'm sure that a lot of your listeners will be thinking, well, that flight should not be delayed for one person. Even though it is a disabled person, but it's not that person's fault.
Okay.
All right. It is an issue.
We appreciate that, Kevin. Thanks for calling today.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
Cheers now, 27 minutes before 1 on Manx Radio. If Keys want to get rid of the bishop, we may as well stop Christmas, Easter and any other gatherings to celebrate anything. That's the way. Surely we are a Christian country. We're going downhill fast. We aren't even being led by the government, says Crystal. In the UK, says G, it's been estimated that it will cost, what will cost? Every man, woman and child, £6,000 a year until 2050. Oh, for the green aims. So presumably, are we financially secure to keep banging on about spending on green issues, says G. Well, we were told about it. I don't want to keep telling you this, but we were told about this. Go back to 2016, look at everybody's manifesto. It was in there in black and white as what was going to happen. The government has stated its aim for our renewables targets and losing our carbon footprint, shrinking our carbon footprint. Now, whether or not you think it's desirable, necessary, possible, that's what the government is going to do. That is our government strategy. It's our national strategy. That's what we're going to do. We contribute a fraction, a tiny fraction, to the global carbon footprint. However, that is what we're doing. The government has stated one of the reasons to justify it is that we're an international island. We get a fortune from international companies setting up on the Isle of Man. We got e-gaming companies from all over the world. So we take money from all over the world, And the government's saying, well, if we take money from all over the world, we have a global responsibility. And this is one of them.
Have you been invited to take part in the Household Income and Expenditure Survey? It's one of the most important surveys for our island because the information you provide is vital data for our island's financial planning. It helps us calculate our VAT revenue from the UK. Plus, it gives us a better understanding of the financial strains on residents, so we can support those who are struggling. If you've been invited, please take part. Visit gov.im/HIES for more information.
It's good to talk. It's how we get things done. So when you apply for a personal loan from Black Horse, you'll get support from one of our relationship managers who's there to talk you through your application. You could borrow up to £50,000 with up to 7 years to pay it back, and you could receive your money within 24 hours of approval. Ready to talk? Go to blackhorseoffshore.co.uk to request a call back today. Finance subject to status. Applicants must be 18 or over.
Q Plus is much more than a plumbing and heating trade counter. Come and explore the largest bathroom showroom on the island, where we're always updating our displays and stocking the latest bathroom designs and trends to make sure we have just what you're looking for. Visit Q Plus on Snugborough Trading Estate or find us on Facebook to see some fabulous bathroom inspiration. qplus.co.im.
It's Manx Radio Christmas Classics on board the dining car on Wednesday the 13th of December. Enjoy a three-course meal and party away to the best Christmas hits, hosted by one of the fabulous Manx Radio presenters. Tickets are just £49 per person. Visit rail.im or book now on 697457. Manx Radio Christmas Classics, in association with your nation's station, Manx Radio.
Manx Radio and Orchard Recruitment are playing Santa this Christmas, so get your business on our nice list. From next Monday, the elves will be out delivering festive cheer and delicious mince pies to workplaces across the island. Nominate your company or department at manxradio.com and we could be sliding down your chimney. Workplace mince pies with your nation station, Manx Radio and Orchard Recruitment. A refreshing change.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
22 minutes before 1. It is Betty's on now. Hi, Betty.
Hi. I'm sorry. I just got a frog in my throat. Sorry. It just happened. I just have a question to ask Andy. If all the people who wanted to be in MHKs had climate stuff in their manifesto, what choice did people have? They could either vote or, if they disagreed, not vote at all.
Well, I'm trying to remember because I went round every one of the... We did programmes from every one of the 12 constituencies. There were some unsuccessful MHKs, unsuccessful candidates that didn't have green agendas at the top, but just about housing and the green agenda was really on everybody's manifesto, Betty.
Well, as I say, did they have any choice? If they perhaps didn't want the person who didn't have it on their agenda for some reason at all, but they thought the other one was good apart from that, they really didn't have a choice. I'm quite sure that an awful lot of people didn't agree with the green agenda, you know.
Well, we all have a choice, and in, what is it now, 2026, there's another general election. Betty, you could stand.
I don't think anybody would vote for me, and I don't think I'm good enough to stand, and I'm far too old as well. But thank you for saying that.
Well, I've got confidence in you, Betty.
I have one more thing to say, though. It's not about this. It's about Bonzo. He's very keen to call anybody who doesn't agree with him ignorant, and I don't think that's a good idea at all. I think it's very bad, actually, to call everybody who disagrees with him ignorant and to make snide remarks about Julian and Julian, who talk a lot of sense.
OK, well, we try and keep everything friendly on Mannin Line, so
No, you do. I know you do. But I just don't think you should call people ignorant.
Well, ignorant means lacking in knowledge. It doesn't mean rude.
Well, most people take it as being rude, though, and lacking in knowledge, and stupid, and all the rest of it. That's how it's mostly seen as. You know, they don't go to the dictionary to look up what things mean. They just know how it sounds.
That's my campaign for today then, Betty. The word ignorant means lacking in knowledge. So that's, if everybody got that right today, I've done something, Betty. Thanks for calling.
Take care. Bye-bye.
19 minutes before 1. Remove the vote of the bishop. The Isle of Man is a multi-faith community. It's not just C of E. Says D on 332. The bishop, does he receive any payments for being in Keys, or does this payment stay with him? Does it go to the church? I think the bishop gets paid by the... I don't know whether he takes the money from Keys. So the big question is, if we went beyond the 2026 deadline, will we be able to consider the options for green energy and other locations? Has the government backed itself into a corner by setting itself an impossible target? That's a really good point, Susan, the government. But then again, the government's got a target. If the government didn't hit the target, the government will get slated, damned if you do, damned if you don't. So there has to be a target, and what has been pointed out many times, international companies here have international agreements that they have signed up to. There are, international banks that are almost as big as the Isle of Man's economy. And if we don't have an international target that fits with their international target, somebody could end up throwing oil or orange powder at their headquarters in London. How would you feel about that? Because we didn't adhere to an international target. Whether or not you agree with the international target, an agreement surely is an agreement. Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
Have you been out on your toboggan over the weekend, Andy?
Down Bray Hill.
Was that you that crashed into the transit van? Oh, man.
And you did. I didn't expect that sort of language from a vicar, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, dear. I was just going back onto Friday's show for a little bit there. Just hello to, was it Sheila from Australia that was on?
It's Sheila in Darwin, yes. Is it Sheila?
Sheila in Darwin. Is it? There's always a Sheila in Australia, isn't there? And I'm glad that these people are listening in. It makes us an international show, doesn't it?
Well, she's as Manx as anything, she is. She just happens to be in Northern Territory now.
Northern Territory, well, we're all somewhere, aren't we? But, Sheila, you're talking about, us being negative and everything, and I should get a boat in the morning. Well, I think that was pointed out, sometimes you can get a boat at the moment, not all the time. And that's the kind of things that the reason why we're on here, is to point out this stuff that's going wrong. So, keep listening, Sheila. And as for Bonzo, well, Bonzo, let me ask you this question, Bonzo. The same question I was going to ask Michelle Hayward last week. I give you a list of all the countries that are wind powered at the moment, and I asked Michelle Hayward, and I'll ask you the same question. Tell me the one that's not the highest price. They're saying that you keep saying about saving on electric. Well, I can't find anyone on that whole list that's not dearer because they're using wind turbines. So just answer me that one. Go and get me that information and then prove your point. And what you were saying before there, Andy, I think that was probably right, because the board at the meeting last week, from the playback that I heard, was basically saying, and as I've said this before, they're getting bullied with ESGs. These companies are saying that they're not going to do business here because unless we have this here, renewable energy, blah, 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 blah. And this is all comes from ESGs, which stems from BlackRock and all these companies. And if suddenly something happens with the BlackRock Institute, all this will all fall down. it's all been given legs by this so-called wars that's going on. That's what's given this all legs to walk with. But these unelected people around the world are bullying governments into doing what they want to do. And you're probably quite right. Your ESG kings over here, likes of KPMG and all these here people, they're controlling it. So these interests are probably not in our best interest, but they're in the best interests of someone in big power and big governments and big business. So I just wanted to touch on, I'm just picking up from an article that's been sent out by Mannin Cancer Group. I don't know whether it's been covered on here, Andy. I don't know. I didn't hear the first part of the programme. And it's about their Maggie Centre that they're trying to build up at the hospital. Sorry, you've heard about
that? No, I haven't. What is it?
Yeah, they're trying to. I mean, the group Mannin Cancer, I mean, must be one of the hardest working groups over here. I mean, they're a small group of people who are putting shows on. They've raised, is it £8 million up to now, 8.2 million, which stays all on the island. And they're having a lot of problems with government legislature setting up this Maggie Centre that's going to run alongside the hospital for the cancer patients. And again, we talk about bureaucracy on this show and how things are not moving fast. And these people are pleading basically that if they don't get this here, this has been rocking around on the table for some time, and if they don't get the paperwork signed and get this sorted out, then the price of the products and everything is going to go up. And they're trying desperately to get this Maggie Centre open for cancer patients.
Well, this has been going on for the best part of a year, surely, hasn't it?
Seemingly, yes. And every time that this gets rolled around, then the price is going up and up and up. And as they've stated, I mean, Julie and Derek Peters and all these people stated, this is Manx money that's been raised by Manx people for a good charity and a good cause. And the government are not pulling their weight here and getting this sorted out. And I'm just quoting on the bottom of this article. Our president has also sent many requests to meet Mr. Hooper to discuss, and not even a reply from him. A previous article said Mr. Hooper said that it's not in a priority. Well, I would say the way things are going with turbo cancers and stuff like that since COVID, I think it is a priority. There's a lot of people on this island suffering from cancer. So I would say to the government, whoever's blocking this, or whoever's not pulling their socks up and getting this done, get it done for these people.
Okay.
Work this out and get it done.
All right.
Cheers, Andy.
Cheers now. Good to hear from you. Val's with us now. Hi, Val.
Hi. I just think, right, I used to listen to the Mannin Line for years. I've listened to you. And it used to be happy, and it used to be laughs and stories. And I know people have to say things and come on and air their views. I'm not knocking them. But I think sometimes they go on repeating themselves constantly. I don't know how you put up with it, because you never offend anybody. You're brilliant. You know, all you lads on the Mannin Line. And I think, you know, do you remember they used to come on, there was tales, good tales that you could laugh at, and it was funny. And I know life's got too serious now.
I often wonder, Val, and I started doing this show 25 years ago, in 1990. I often wonder what Marge Jockum would make of all this.
Yeah, and Dorothy Quirk.
Dorothy from Peel.
Yeah.
Tony Bridson, and who else? Oh, Count Morenzi. Count Morenzi, that was always good when Count Morenzi's dog came on in the background.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I worked at Westlands for years, and I had all the old characters, and I've got some stories, but I wouldn't tell a lot of them.
All right.
You know.
Good to hear from you, Val. Thanks for calling today.
Thank you. You take care and you do a good job.
Bless you. Thanks. It's 11 minutes before 1.
Walk through the northern lights into a land of ice and snow at Ramsey Garden Centre. Indoor and outdoor lights, a magical range of real and artificial trees, decorations, gifts and much more. Christmas at Ramsey Garden Centre, Albert Road.
This Christmas at Tracy Bell, bring yourself and an elf to receive 50% off these treatments. Boutique whitening for you and your elf for only £400. That's 2 for £400. In our non-surgical department, choose an injectable treatment for you and your elf and pay for only 1. Call 613323 or visit tracybell.co.uk for details and booking. Available till the 24th of December. Terms and conditions apply. Your merry is our mission at Tracy Bell this Christmas. Go on, treat your elf.
Save over a third on festive centrepiece joints at ShopRite. An easy-to-carve turkey breast joint that's a delicious alternative to a whole bird, now only £3 per pound. Or a succulent unsmoked boneless Danish gammon joint, just $2.70 per pound. Roast, glaze or slow cook for a delicious crowd pleaser. How about a rind-on pork loin joint for the crispiest crackling at only $2.25 per pound? Can't make up your mind? Why not buy all 3? Festive meat savers now in at ShopRite.
Looking for a great night out? Something a little different? Then join us at Mannin Hotel as we pay tribute to some of the best music acts in the world. Your heart will go on with our Celine Dion tribute night on Friday the 22nd of December. For only £195 per couple, enjoy a night of your favourite music, a 3-course a la carte dinner, plus overnight stay and breakfast. Book now. Visit manninhotel.im or call 602 555.
Coming soon, you could be a big winner with Manx Radio's 12 Days of Christmas. We've got some massive prizes up for grabs,
including return Loganair flights to London City, a £100 Haldane Fisher voucher and a family ticket for Aladdin at the Gaiety Theatre.
So keep listening for your chance to win this festive season.
Manx Radio's 12 Days of Christmas, brought to you by SpectrumWindows.im. The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
8 minutes before 1, Monday lunchtime on the Isle of Man, and Howard's with us. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Andy. Just possibly a little bit of good news in amongst all the doom and gloom and sorrow. I've just come back from town, and the site that used to be the old KFC down in Duke Street, I heard clanking and thumping, and I looked through the gaps and there's men working on the site.
Actually doing something, not just walking around.
Oh no, the site is looking semi-respectable. Now, whether they've had an order to clean it up, and this is what they're doing, or they're commencing restarting the construction. And as I say, there was a group of men down there with skips and sorting the rubbish out. So whether it's going to make a start on again, there'll be a bit of good news for the new year.
Crikey, can you imagine? And they're starting 3 weeks before Christmas.
Well, they'll be knocking off again now for a fortnight for Christmas. Don't rush it too much. It's only been 3 years.
Oh, my. Oh, dear me.
Yes, there's a bit of good news for the Christmas period.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed. All right, Thanks, Howard.
Okay, take care.
Good to hear from you. A note in from WhatsApp, this is 192. We can't afford to say we're a tiny island, so we shouldn't worry about our emissions. A recent program, a BBC programme, stated that the USA, China and Russia and India produce the most emissions, but the rest of the smaller countries, including the Isle of Man, collectively produce 30% of total emissions. So if we all said not us, then we'd all be in a mess. It's the old, if everybody gives a little, then it ends up being a lot. The Household Income Expenditure Survey going on now is offering to pay everybody who completes it £20. Is that so? You get £20. Who's paying for that? Well, I would imagine we are, Nick. Thanks for that. You have great patience. Said that. Oh, boy. Let's have a look. Oh, a message in concerning the Ocean Castle. That was it. A lady, I think it was I'm just trying to find it. Corinne. It was Corinne who just said, yes. Who is the Ocean Castle one? You've talked about the Ocean Castle, and it was mentioned with Michelle Haywood and Joan Watterson. It's the Tavere Group that are doing the Ocean Castle. There are various developments that are going to be given some public sector money. Department for Enterprise, the 3 proposal approved in principle for funding from the Island Infrastructure Scheme, 3 key brownfield sites, one of which is the Ocean Castle site in Port Erin, the old Ocean Castle Hotel, Tavere Properties. The other one is the 55 apartments by Lake Road in Douglas, opposite Tesco. That's Duluth Limited. Dandara, it's part of the Dandara Group, and the other one is the big development really where the old Villiers Hotel used to be on Loch Promenade, and that site there, which I think is Tavere as well. So Tavere are doing the Ocean Castle in Port Erin, and the Villiers Hotel on Douglas Promenade, Loch Promenade, and Dandara are doing the one in Lake Road in Douglas. These are 3 big brownfield sites. As yet, we haven't had any work starting on the Castle Mona Hotel, which I think is Tavere as well. That's going to be a heck of a project when that finally gets started. Then, of course, there's Middlemarch in Douglas. Then there is the Lord Street bus station, or the Lord Street string of bus sites. So there's a lot of work to do. Then you come back to Newson's on the quay. That's brownfield as well. The old Trafalgar pub at the bottom of Douglas Head Road is still there. A lot of work to do in 2024, wouldn't you say? Thank you, Texter 008. Yes, well said, Val. All the best to you. I've spent the last couple of days at the children's ward with my son. The care that the nurses show is absolutely amazing. It's such a shame Manx Cares decided to put a ban on Christmas decorations, says Alfonso. Is that true? Is there a ban on Christmas decorations at the hotel, at the hospital? I'd vote for Betty, says Daphne. Betty, stand for MHK. You got 2 years to think about it. That's it. Back tomorrow. Open line. WINT.